Good morning. My name is Julia Leite, and I'm doing my master's in public administration at the School of International and Public Affairs. This was an excellent start to our understanding of global policies and geopolitical trends related to building a new net zero world. It is a constantly evolving playing field where new areas for competition and collaboration arise each day. From now on, we zoom into Brazil's role in this global race. What are our edges and weaknesses? Where can we help the global community, and where do we need help? How can Brazil end this revolutionary period stronger than we entered it and create a virtuous circle leading to a more prosperous and sustainable society? To kick off this conversation, I invite you to hear a message from Armínio Fraga, former president of the Central Bank of Brazil, economist, and founder of Gávea Investimentos. He had a logistical issue today and therefore will join us online.
Fly up for the meeting is my loss. I was listening to the panel now. It's terrific, and I'm sure it'll be a great event. I have basically 3 points I would like to make today. And of course, they're all related to this enormous challenge of climate change. It is really one of the great imperatives of our time. So point number one, I am totally convinced that Brazil can play a major role in responding to this challenge. The probably most obvious step in our case is to end deforestation. We often hear ending illegal deforestation, and of course that has to be done. But we need to go beyond that with the proper incentives so that in the end we arrive at, I would say, net reforestation. I don't think we can be happy with anything less than that, and we know very well that not a single tree needs to cut down for Brazil to continue growing its agricultural production. This is not. Oh, and I should say here, do a quick disclosure. I'm an investor, board member of ReGreen, a company that does reforestation. You'll be hearing from them later today. It's a business. There are no subsidies involved. It's really exciting stuff, but I'll let my colleagues deal with that at some other point in the meeting. Now, getting this done, and I'm talking about net reforestation, will require courage, really will require an iron will from the government. A lot of stuff that is hard is involved. We're talking about crime, massive crime. And this is something, unfortunately, that is all over, particular in many of the regions, Amazon for sure. Ignorance is still a factor here in Brazil. Recently, we had a bad experience with that at the highest level, I'm afraid. But this is doable. I think we know how to do it. And it's just a matter of commitment and competence as well. While we're at it, I believe at the end of the day, we should also, and I believe we will, worry about biodiversity. It's another issue of great importance. And all of this should be packaged into a real exciting, really, project for Brazil. Sadly, until recently, when one heard the word Brazil, I'm talking internationally now, one would think, well, Amazon, and really not in a flattering way. the word Amazon came attached to deforestation, illegal logging, illegal mining, mercury in the waters of the Amazon tributaries, and so on. Crime, a mess. That said, I think we are now in a position to turn a liability into an asset. I really believe Brazil can and will play a big role in this area, and that's my first point. My second point is the following, very simple as well. Climate issues should be an integral part of Brazil's development strategy. Simple. Now, what's going on down here that requires our attention, our work? First, we have had 4 decades of mediocre growth here in Brazil. In 2 of these 4 decades, we had negative per capita growth. It is an astounding failure. Yet, much progress has taken place. Yes, all kinds of issues, inflation, poverty, even inequality, that's still a major issue. But we must, and again, can do better, same as in my first point. Given that I'm an economist, I'll give you a minute or two on this. Macroeconomic instability has been a problem for us for a long time. We're doing better, but there's still quite a bit to be done. Macro stability is a necessary condition for things to work out well. We want to eliminate this uncertainty factor as best as we can. We must. But it is not a sufficient condition. That we also know. Just concluded a study with a couple of colleagues at the Group of 30 in the London School on Latin America's troubles, kind of getting its act together. And this is one of the lessons. Now, of course, the basic design of a development strategy must include better education, health, infrastructure, all this kind of stuff. In Brazil, we have to recognize there's still institutional issues to be addressed, institutional flaws, and risks. The agenda is a topic of debate, but the general direction of reform has to be defined. I don't think we're there either. I think we still struggle with learning from our mistakes, but also from things that worked out well. So we seem to forget. I mentioned inequality. I think inequality is often treated as something where there's a trade-off between inequality and growth. I do not think this is the case in Brazil. This is not a theorem of some mathematical model. It's just something based on where we are. And my conviction that we must invest in basic things that are both pro-growth and pro-equality, such as education and infrastructure, the stuff I mentioned. Now, at this point, I believe, given where we are inside Brazil and then, all over our planet, I think the time has come to introduce climate and environment issues as a priority. I believe the Brazilian government sees it this way. This is very important. It is time now to present a policy framework that is clearly seen, understood by all here. Here, I'm in Brazil, don't forget. And that this priority is met with action. So it's clear. The government is also signaling they're going to do that, which is good. So now it's a matter of executing. This has to be very clear, understood by the people. Now, this being the case, investment opportunities that are already enormous, will grow further. Just think about clean energy, water and sewage sanitation, and much more. I think we're looking at a country that has been underinvesting for a long time. The needs are massive. And this is unlike you often find, say, in manufacturing, where you can't push a business to increase capacity if there is excess capacity. In the case of infrastructure in Brazil, the needs are phenomenal, beyond actually the topic of this conference, but for sure in the areas related to this conference. And lastly, I really don't see any reason why we can't follow the path of countries like New Zealand, Costa Rica, I would say Canada, and others. Brazil can and should strive to be a green paradise. Brazil should bring to mind, when people hear its name, our name, Brazil, good stuff, not bad stuff, and in particular nature. We have been very fortunate. We fit our space very well. So I think this is something we should do. So this is my second point. So first, there's a lot that we can do, and then second, I think there are ample ways in which Brazil can include at a very high priority in its development strategy issues related to climate, biodiversity, the environment in general. Now, points 1 and 2. Point 3, to finish, is that in order to do this, in order to get the job done, we need to engage our people. And here's what I'm thinking. If you say the words climate change and biodiversity to probably tens of millions of people in Brazil, I don't think they're going to know what you're talking about. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am. But I think this would sound somewhat mysterious to a large chunk of our population. So it is my view that people must understand that all this that is going on really relates to quality of life, not just for us, but for our children, our grandchildren. I have 3. And I think they're in for a ride if we don't get this done. On the negative side, again, I may be a victim of sample selection bias, but I think people must connect the terrible messages that are out there from Mother Nature because of climate changes. So they need to understand the causality. Just now, last few days, we've had a tragedy in Rio Grande do Sul, in Brazil, in Morocco, in Libya, heat waves, and so on. And so that's, I think, more than adequate negative incentive for people to get their act together. Just the connections just have to be made, and people have to understand it. On the positive side, I think people have to imagine what would be like to be living in with clean waters, clean air, beautiful surroundings. I think it would be a matter of national pride, a wonderful thing. And I happen to think this is not easy, but is doable. Finally, I think in the end, therefore, we should we should aim at being a sort of a green paradise. Brazil should have a green brand, and for tourists, of course, but above all, for us Brazilians who live here. I think this would be the most wonderful thing. This is what I had to say. Again, all the best, and thank you for your attention.